I'm Rhett Pritchard, the Executive Director of the St. Bernard Chamber of Commerce. I am here with Franziska Trautmann from Glass Half Full. Thank you for being here, Fran. I know that a lot of people in the parish are probably going to start hearing about Glass Half Full for reasons we'll get into in just a little bit, but thank you for being out here. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell the people a little about yourself. Give us a little background about Fran.
All right. I'm originally from Carencro, Louisiana, which is right outside of Lafayette. I came over to New Orleans for college. I went to Tulane, studied chemical engineering, and thought I was going to get a regular 9-to-5 job after graduating.
As we all do.
But instead, while I was still a senior at college, I started Glass Half Full, and I haven't looked back.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting kind of scope, chemical engineering to this. Tell us a little bit about the origin, because I've heard some things about like how it all started, but I kind of wanted to hear it straight from the source. So, how did Glass Half Full come into being?
If you've ever heard of Glass Half Full, you've probably heard this line, but it really started over a bottle of wine.
Yes, that's the one that I've heard. So I'm interested to hear the full story.
A $2 chuck from Trader Joe's, and Max and I, my co-founder, were just sitting around drinking a bottle of wine one night as seniors at Tulane. And once we had finished the bottle, we realized that the empty one was going to end up in a landfill. Since we basically didn't have any glass recycling in most of Louisiana. And we thought about that. We were like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
What if we could do something about it? And that just planted the seed that we needed to literally start Googling things
and figuring out, researching what can we do.
Yeah.
Because it is a problem. I mean, even if we have like glass, how do you recycle glass?
Exactly.
So
that's what we Googled. How do you recycle glass?
And what did y'all come up with? What did you find?
So that's where we realized we knew we needed to do something different, because how you usually recycle glass is that it's, collected usually by the government, and then they send it to a facility where all the materials are sorted, and then the glass is sent to a manufacturer. The thing with glass is that it's one of the heaviest waste materials. So if you ever have to ship it far away, it's super expensive.
Right.
And so it doesn't really make any economical sense to be able to ship it far away. That's pretty much why we hadn't had glass recycling.
Yeah, because you have to send it. Because aluminum is, I guess, light.
Pretty light. Yeah, same with plastic, paper. And we also have more of those end market manufacturers nearby.
Okay.
But the closest glass bottle manufacturer is either Houston or St. Louis or
so you'd have to ship it out to there.
Exactly. So we were like, okay, we know we need a more localized solution. And since I studied chemical engineering, I was like, well, glass comes from sand.
Yeah.
What if we could turn it back into sand?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's a natural process.
Right. And once we figured that we could turn glass back into sand, things just clicked. We were like, we need sand for everything here.
I'm going to say, and I mean, we'll talk a little bit about those projects that you're using the sand for, because those are pretty important. But tell me a little about the process itself. What are y'all using to get this stuff into sand? And I was actually curious about does it feel like beach sand, or is it a different thing?
Yeah, it does. I should have brought some. We could have done an ASMR.
Yeah, I'm going to say we could have held it up to the mics.
But yeah, that's one of most people's first question is is it sharp? But it's not. So basically we use a series of automated machinery. The main function is a pulverizer, and it's a hammer mill. So it's a bunch of hammers, and the hammers hit a rounded metal grate. So it rounds out the grains of sand as it gets crushed. The machinery is also able to separate any non-glass, so labels
and
caps, corks, everything that's not glass is separated throughout the machinery, and we're basically left with sand. Looks like sand, feels like sand.
So these are things that you've kind of repurposed from other industries to do this. And
yeah, I mean, the machinery existed, actually. It's one of the first things we found in our Google searches, like early on, is like glass to sand machine. Like, that's a thing. And so we tried out a lot of different ones in the beginning, and then kind of found the ones that worked best for us and what we ultimately wanted to use the sand for.
So, like, how big was the operation when it started? Was it just like you and few friends, or what is?
Yeah,
tell me about that.
The operation when we started was about as big as this room that we're in, which is not very big. We started in a backyard on Broadway Street, uptown. We had a small machine that was like smaller than a human. It took one bottle at a time and crushed it.
So y'all had to, like, it was a long process essentially.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was very labor intensive. We had to, like, run around town after class and find the glass that we collected around town and then bring it back to the backyard of the fraternity house that we were operating out of. And then, one at a time, put it through the machine to turn it into sand.
And so how did it go from that sort of small operation to, I mean, you have a warehouse right now in the city, right?
Yeah.
So where is that, by the way? So
our current facility is on Louisa and Almonaster. It's in the Desire area.
So how did you get to that point?
So a lot of things happened along the way. We started in January of 2020. So then COVID hit.
Right, yeah.
And we were still operating out of that backyard. But because COVID was happening, we convinced this guy who owned like a very small warehouse to let us move in for free. Because we were like, you don't have any tenants. It's COVID. Yeah. So that's how we got like our first official little warehouse, which was uptown. And then we grew out of that super quickly, but we offered the same deal to the place we're in now, where we were like, hey, you have this warehouse that's empty, you have no tenants, and it's also kind of dirty.
Right.
What if we cleaned it up for you?
Yeah.
And you gave us some free rent. And so we got a couple months free rent, moved into that place, and then we've been there ever since. We now pay like full rent, but that's how we could kind of got things going.
Yeah, how you got things going. So big news, especially for St. Bernard Parish. Recently, last week actually, as of this recording, you broke ground in your new facility here in St. Bernard Parish. We're very excited to have y'all. We've been hearing about it for a while. Tell us about, how that came about, what's going on with that, what's happening with the original facility that you're at right now. So just, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's been a long process. We've been working on moving to the parish for 3 years now.
Yeah.
It actually started in 2021. We won Startup St. Bernard.
Right.
So we, pitched our idea of, glass half full at full scale, processing hundreds of thousands of pounds of glass, all right here in St. Bernard. And we ended up winning.
Yeah.
And, a part of winning is that you agree to like move to the parish or base your operations here, which we were fully willing to do. And then we started looking around and we were like,
where do you do it?
Yeah, there's no warehouse space.
How are you gonna do this? Yeah.
There's nothing that really fit our needs. But the Miro Foundation was so helpful and generous in figuring out how we could move to the parish. Yeah. And they had said they always wanted a business park off of Paris Road. They already had the land. The parish was into it. And so us winning kind of like kickstarted that whole process.
I was going to ask, because I know the Miro Foundation obviously had some help there, how that relationship sort of started with the Miro Foundation.
Yeah, so it was just by winning Startup St. Bernard pretty much. We were at Dockville Farm that crazy night and ended up winning, and they were like, okay, when are you moving?
Yeah, right.
And we were like, whoa.
Well, that's the thing about the Miro Foundation too. If they see something good going on, they're gonna invest in it, especially if it's gonna, benefit the parish. So, we're glad to see you coming. Do you have a sort of timeline on when that's gonna take place?
Yeah, so I talked about how much it took to get here, but now that we broke ground last week, we got Renegade on the job, and they're moving quickly. They think it'll be ready by early 2025. So pretty much like 6 to 9 months.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot quicker than I thought. Well, it was funny because I passed by like after the actual ceremony, and saw people working.
They're moving.
I was like,
They're
okay, they're
moving.
actually doing it.
And
It's not
I
just-
don't want to like ruin the, allure of a groundbreaking, but
Yeah.
we actually technically started working like a month ago. So they're
Okay.
already like a month into the project.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. You gotta kind of time things out
Yeah.
for that. But I mean, we're certainly glad to have y'all in the parish, and we think it's something. So speaking of which, with this new facility, what kind of things are you hoping to, I guess, offer the parish in terms of like services? Obviously, you'll do glass, but what else do you plan on doing for the parish?
I mean, I think the biggest thing we'll be doing for the parish is creating jobs.
Right.
A big part of the funding that we got, I mean, Miro Foundation was a huge part of our funding, but another big part was actually through a federal program, and in which we've committed to creating a certain amount of jobs. So we're hoping to have about 100 jobs at that facility in the next 5 years.
And what kind of jobs will that be?
So they're over the median job rate in St. Bernard.
Well, that's
so,
what everyone wants, yeah.
Oh yeah. So we call them thriving wage
Right,
jobs.
yeah.
So it's not minimum wage.
Okay.
And it's not even the average income level. It's above that, and then full benefits and things like that. But on a technical basis, what folks will be doing is mostly
what are they gonna day-to-day be?
Yeah, it's a lot of driving. I mean, a lot of what we do is collecting glass. So we're, doing routes all across Louisiana, Mississippi. We're getting into Alabama and Florida.
I saw
So,
that.
yeah,
Y'all are expanding through the Gulf
Exactly.
Coast.
And all that glass is coming here.
That's what I'm excited because y'all are spreading, but at the same time, the hub is sort of
The hub is here.
Speaking
exactly.
of which, what the old facility, are y'all keeping that operational, or is it going to be kind of shifting?
So that's pretty much our most popular drop-off spot for people to bring us their glass. So we'll keep that part open, and we're still kind of figuring out operationally what it looks like. But the hub is here. We're processing here. Our team is based here. So everything will be based here.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And speaking of just sort of the things that y'all do, I saw recently that, because we were actually researching you for Keep St. Bernard Beautiful, which I'm also part of. I actually got promoted from secretary to secretary/treasurer recently. Mainly because, no one else volunteered. That was really it. But I know that y'all have moved into mixed recycling as well. And I think currently it's Jefferson Parish where y'all do that. Are there any plans to... Well, first off, how did that come about? I mean, obviously y'all started with glass. How did y'all expand into that?
Yeah.
And then are there some plans to kind of push that out elsewhere?
For sure. I mean, it basically came about just from a need and a demand for it. We started accepting, recyclables in addition to glass at our, Louisa Street location, maybe a little over a year ago, just because people were like, hey, I have a curbside, recycling bin with the city, but I really want to ensure this is getting recycled. Would you accept this and make sure it's getting to the right place? Because I trust you more.
Yeah.
And we were like, sure, why not? And so we kind of tested it out there, and then Jefferson Parish stopped their curbside program, and that's when things really started to get real. Because then
no one else there was no other option.
And the Meadowreef people love their recycling.
Yeah.
So that was a big push for us to be like, okay, this is something that people really want and need. And then the parish reached out about doing a drop-off program, and so we kind of helped them start
that's fantastic news, because we've been talking about that at Keep St. Bernard Beautiful meetings for a while. I mean, we have a notable lack of recycling here, especially for things like glass and plastic and paper and things like that. So, I'm glad that that's something that eventually we can look forward to. Just personally and, as a resident here, I'd love to be able to... Here's my recycling.
Exactly.
So
and we'll definitely be accepting all recyclables at the plant off of Paris Road, and then maybe we can bring some additional drop off points to the parish. We also have a glass drop off at Dockville.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that. You'll have that right now. So as of right now, residents can just go drop off their glass.
It's just glass though. Yeah.
Okay. So everybody, if you want to bring your glass
to Dockville.
Only
when they're open.
Yeah, it'll be recycled. But going on and shifting gears, so obviously you're recycling glass, you're turning it into sand, you're using that sand for things, which is also fantastic. So tell us, what are you using the sand for?
Great question. So yeah, obviously, I mean, we started this and we were like, okay, we can turn glass into sand. What do we need sand for? The first thing that popped into our mind was coastal restoration.
Yeah.
The second thing that popped into our mind was like disaster relief sandbags, and
Right,
like
yeah.
sandbags for hurricanes. And then we were like, and then, you know, construction, things like that. And the, you know, but the thing about coastal restoration is we couldn't just like make this sand and then like put it on a coast and be like, okay,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, you can't. You have to actually come up with a plan.
Right,
to do
right.
stuff.
So I teamed up with some of my professors from Tulane, and we applied for a National Science Foundation grant, and we got it. So then we could like recruit all these other really smart
Wow.
scientists.
Yeah.
So like now we have a team of scientists from like LSU, from Tulane, from Jackson State, from UT, and like any type of scientist you could name.
So you have like actual experts helping you out with this stuff. Wow.
And so that's been like 3 or 4 years now of like doing the research with that team. So, you know, first figuring out like, okay, is it safe? And then figuring out, is it effective?
Yeah.
How is it the most effective? How can we use it to protect the coast? How can we use it to rebuild coastal areas? And so that's just been like ongoing research, and we've been able to do a lot of cool demonstration projects with, you know, partners like CRCL, Common Ground Relief, and like Fish and Wildlife and folks like that. And then I think the coolest project we've done so far is actually right off of where our site is going to be.
It's like right behind it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is it Bienvenue, like right on the other side?
Yeah, it's in Bayou Bienvenue, and we built 2 islands. They're baby islands,
Yeah.
but
But they're there, right? And they're so like, what's the process for? Because I've actually just personally, like, I've seen on Instagram, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I've seen y'all essentially moving these things and putting them into place. So
Yeah.
tell me about how that comes about.
it was a long process. It was a lot of trial and error. We didn't have anyone on our team who's
Yeah.
built islands
Yeah,
before.
like, who has? Yeah.
We're new to the island building game. But yeah, we found these like biodegradable, they're called coir logs. They look like Alaskan bullworms from SpongeBob.
From SpongeBob, yes.
And they're like biodegradable cocoa husk. And so we used those as the perimeter. So we had to like kind of put those in first. And then we started experimenting with how to put the sand in. And ultimately we figured out that like a dredge pump type situation works the best. So we like suck water from the bayou, make a slurry, and then pump out the slurry of the sand and the water, you know, into the middle of
to create the sort of island.
Exactly.
And then those Alaskan bullworm things, they serve as like
The
erosion protection pretty much, or is it
to
just
kind of like keep to contain the sediment. And then we planted like marsh grasses on the perimeter.
Okay.
And then in the fall we'll plant cypress trees, and the goal is to like get those to grow and vegetate, and then like keep the sediment in place with the plants.
Because I found out from our next podcast guest, actually, Blaze, that area back there used to be like a thriving cypress forest.
Yep.
And I know he's been doing a lot of work back there, so I
Yeah.
mean that's cool that's something to look forward as well.
Yeah, that area is called the ghost swamp because it's a ghost now.
Yeah, it's just,
like
of what it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be a thriving wetland. We had like old growth cypress trees, which I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of them, but you can literally look up like old growth cypress trees and you can see like a fully grown man laying on the stump of an old growth. Like that's how big they were.
Yeah.
They were huge. And a bunch of different factors played into killing the swamp, but Mr. Go, the Mississippi River Gulf outlet was kind of the big one.
Was the right. So hopefully we can look forward to that work sort of bringing in coordination with some of the other stuff, bringing that back. But that's super exciting. I mean, that's great. That's wonderful. Because I mean, I fish in that area, so like I love to see work being done there.
And we're already bringing like wildlife back. We have a little gator who visits us.
I saw the
frequently.
gator.
Yeah.
There's like like ducks and things that are now like back there.
We saw some egrets, some birds. We're hoping to get because if you go out and look at Bayou Bienvenue behind Paris Road, on the side that we're on, like it's pretty much open water.
Right, yeah.
And so, for us to be able to build these little islands, we're hoping could be like nesting places, and places for gators to sunbathe.
Yeah, and chill out, and wildlife to thrive and come back. So, that's fantastic. So I'm glad that y'all are doing it. So it's sort of like this dual thing where, you're not only recycling things and protecting the environment that way, you're putting the stuff back into coastal restoration, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
Just to kind of switch gears as well, and we had mentioned social media. You have a pretty substantial following, on social media. How did that come about? How has that affected things? Has it made it easier to find volunteers or things, or how has that sort of affected how you do business?
It's affected so much. I could tell a million stories about things that have happened just because we posted on social media. But when we started this in 2020, we got on TikTok right away. Okay. Which was pretty early for most people.
Right. You were one of the early innovators.
Exactly. We were one of the early people. People were getting on TikTok to look at things, but we were one of the early groups to post videos and it was still this dancing app for kids.
Yeah, y'all were making content based around what you were doing.
And so because we were doing that, and I guess it is a pretty unique story. We were still in the backyard. We were hey, we're crushing glass in this backyard. We're trying to recycle for the New Orleans area, and some of those videos just went viral, and so we were able to get a following pretty early on. And then same with Instagram. Instagram was already a thing, but we posted a lot there about our journey and our process and things we were struggling with, and just fun stories about what we were up to. And I think people just resonated with that. Right. I think especially a lot of younger people who felt sometimes it feels like the government is failing us and not recycling.
We kind of have to take things into our own hands.
And people liked that. People of all sides of the political spectrum were hell yeah, those kids are doing it.
I think it's something that everyone can get behind.
Exactly.
There's a need to recycle. There's a need to restore our coast.
Yeah.
So I think you'll have a great story, so.
And just the craziest things have come about that, Mike Rowe. Do you remember Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs?
I used to watch that religiously back when Discovery Channel.
Yeah, me too.
That was been back when cable was still a thing in our household. But,
no, same. I was watching.
But he reached out to y'all or something?
So actually this random documentary crew reached out to us and were we saw your TikToks.
Yeah.
We want to do a little feature on you. It's going to go on YouTube. And we're okay, cool. They came over, and then we filmed for 2 straight days. We were this is really intense for a YouTube documentary feature. Yeah. And then on the last day, Mike Rowe came out, and he was what's up? You're on my show. It's called Returning the Favor, and that episode is still out there. I think it's on Facebook or something.
Wow.
And he
That's
gave us
incredible.
He gave us $30,000.
Wow.
All because we posted on TikTok.
Because, things happen. Yeah. Right? Things happen when you're doing good stuff. So that's crazy, though. I adored Dirty Jobs. So
yeah, me too.
That would have been my dream to just, to do that. But, we've talked a lot about a lot of different things. Is there anything else that you want the community of St. Bernard to know? Obviously, y'all are coming in and you're going to be a part of the community. Anything else you want people of St. Bernard to know?
I like the way you phrase that. I think we're not coming in and just doing our own thing in the corner.
Yeah.
We want to be a part of the parish and the community here. We want to hire from here. I talked about how many jobs we're going to be creating. So people want to come drive and process and work at the plants. We'll be looking for folks soon. Participate in the Dockville glass drop-off.
Yeah.
Bring your glass and recycle with us. We also do pickups. So any restaurants or bars in the parish that want to get their glass recycled should definitely reach out. And we just want to be able to recycle as much as possible so we can fill this plant up.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we are going to start pushing too, is having our restaurants and businesses, pretty much funnel their recycling.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So, hopefully we can help you out with that as well. But anyway, this has been Pulse of the Parish podcast. I'm Rhett Pritchard, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. here with Fran. Thank you so much for being here with us. If there's anything you want the people to know about, your details for your business, let them know.
Yeah, if you want to learn more, our website is glasshalffull.co, and you can check us out on Instagram, glasshalffull.co.
Definitely do that. Definitely check them out on Instagram if you have not, because it's a great story. It's great to watch.
Thanks for having me.